Alright guys, this is the moment of truth. Jai was kind enough to drop off a handful of his super awesome 2.4 gig nano RX PCBs, and there's no way I'm soldering that myself because they're all tiny 0402 pads. So what I did was I built myself an SMD reflow oven. There was a toaster oven for $29 Australian at Kmart, so grabbed that. You can see in the back there, we've got a thermocouple going through the sidewall. Inside there, we've got a relay controlling the two heater elements, which are on the top and bottom there. And down the back, kind of hanging out on some strip board, we've got an ESP32 and the thermocouple amplifier. And that all just goes in through the back there. And so when we turn this on, this should give us a nice SMD profile. So I went and ordered a bunch of parts from DigiKey, and now we've also done the stencil, which is over here on the floor because that's where you work. So we've got, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a tiny little stencil there for the RX. So I've solder pasted one up and used my awesome cheat sheet here with where I put all my little parts. So we're now at the point where all the parts are on this PCB. It's been solder pasted, it hasn't been reflowed yet. So let's chuck it in the oven and see how we go. All right, I was shaking like someone with Parkinson's getting that in there, but it's in and sitting on its little piece of aluminium foil there. So let's close it up and fire it up and see what happens. God, I really don't want to move this by twisting this. All right, got our little indicator light. Let's hit refresh over here. And see what we get. All right, so we've got 100% power. Power is the line up the top there. We've got a set point of 150 degrees, and we've got a temperature of 0 degrees because we've only just started. You can see over here, if I zoom in, there's our little PCB getting nice and toasty. Looking pretty good. You can see we've got some temperature starting to come up. Temperature is getting up to about 130 degrees. And you can see that the power is starting to come down because we're getting close to the set point. This should overshoot a little bit. There it goes. So the power's dropped to nothing now. So the elements have switched off completely, as you can see. So we're now into the soak stage, which should be between 150 and 180, and it should remain there for about 80 to 120 seconds or something like that. The elements clicking on and off there with the relay at a duty cycle of about 30%. Just keeping us right on where we want to be. Beautiful. This is going to jump up in a second to about 240 degrees, which will be the reflow stage. There it goes. So we're back at max power, and this is where the magic is going to happen. Can't really, maybe if I put it on the thing, you can see that we're starting to get some shininess there. So a bit hard to see because it's so bloody tiny, but we are getting some of the solder starting to become liquid instead of the paste. So we're getting up to the 220 mark, which is where we want to be to actually do the reflowing. We're going to hit 240 in a second, and then very shortly we'll enter the cool down stage and we'll see the set point, drop all the way to 0, and at that point we'll open the door and let it start cooling down. There we go. So we're now in cool down. I'm gonna open up the door and let that cool down back below 220. There we go. So that relay is off, and that'll just stay off now while this cools down with the door open. And let's see how we went. All right, we're all out of the oven, and there's a few things to touch up, but generally things are in the right place. I'm not sure if that LED pad is connected on this side. It looks like it's not. The 1280 needs a bit of work with the iron. There's a few pads that are bridged there. The crystal is definitely connected, but it is slightly tombstoned on one side, but it's not too bad. Just lifted on this side a little bit. And I'm a bit skeptical on one of the grounds on this side on the RF filter, but we'll touch things up with some flux in the iron and see how we go. Okay, we've done some touching up with the iron and it's all looking pretty good. Haven't tested it yet, but fixed up the LED pad and cleaned up the 1280 pins, which are all looking pretty nice now. The only one that's kind of looking a little bit weird still is maybe the RF amp, but we'll see how that goes. Overall, turned out pretty good.